Hi everybody, welcome to HEJ250-350 Public Relations. This is week 9. We're going to be talking about PR tools, social media and digital storytelling. So today we will examine the impacts of social media and digital technologies on public relations practice. We'll look at the way that different sectors use social media and the role of influencers in viral marketing. So digital technologies are very much a way of life now. As of April 2019, 4.4 billion people, or 85% of the global population, were active internet users, and social media was a dominant part of that internet landscape. 3.4 billion people, or 44% of the global population, are active media users. And I think we need to situate that very much in the past tense now, if that was April 2019, because the first part of this year, which we're living through now, and the COVID-19 pandemic, has certainly forced a great deal of the world, especially the developed Western world, to go online. So I'm sure those statistics have increased markedly in the year to date, in 2020 to date. So once those statistics become available, it'll be very interesting to make a comparison. There's been a digital boom with hardware, so obviously phones have taken over from conventional computers, but also tablets, etc., and software and platforms. So social media platforms are being developed all the time, and the more established ones are being redesigned and tweaked all the time. And there's always countless apps being developed and introduced all the time as well. So if we look at the big sectors of our society, commerce and the entrepreneurial world is very much influenced by digital technology and social media. The cultural world, entertainment, personal relationships, etc. The political world and the academic world. Okay, so the way that people learn, the way that people teach, and also areas of research are all very influenced by digital technologies and social media. So what is digital storytelling? Digital storytelling is a very ancient concept, the process of combining facts and narratives in order to communicate a message and an emotion to an audience. And digital storytelling is the same thing, but through digital technologies. So, so the audience doesn't need to be in front of you, and it's also not a broadcast audience. So it doesn't. It's not just in one place and one time. It's not constrained by temporality. It can be as long or as short. It can go to individuals. It can go to a mass. It can be targeted in very different ways. And then we have social media. So the collective of online communications channels dedicated to community-based input, interaction, content sharing, and collaboration. So, that is what social media is. It's nice to have a definition there. And you can see that it is that very diffuse and adaptable channels for communication or for telling stories through these different ways, different pathways. And, possibly its most significant asset is that its targetability. So particular users can be targeted, and users, even a niche group, when we talk about global possibilities, are very big. So social media is very popular in Australia, as it is in most of the West. 88% of Australians use the internet and 71% use social media, and we can see what sort of apps are most popular in Australia. Not surprising, it's social media, then entertainment apps, commercial apps, banking apps, games, health and fitness, and dating and friendship apps. So that's not particularly surprising list. And neither is this. So the more conventional platforms like Facebook and Facebook Messenger are very popular. The functionality of Facebook is pretty hard to critique, and it's always being adapted, and although it is slightly derided in some circles for being kind of archaic, it is very, very functional and can work on lots of different levels, and especially when you combine it with Messenger that has that ability to be far more personal and far more targeted, and then you have the more conventional sort of Facebook as well. But things like Netflix and the streaming services are really becoming very popular, and they represent an interesting marriage between mainstream media um, and the usability of social media, and the adaptability of digital media, but also with a very professional and very affluent form of and high end form of production, which hasn't been associated with digital technologies really up until now. So how has social media changed public relations? It's infiltrated every industry, and in public relations, there is there is a strong expectation that organisations will use social media in their public relations. There's an expectation that organisations will have a social media presence in which users or customers can directly talk to the organisation. Social media enables this engagement and interaction, and hopefully relationship building. It can also backfire, and communications can be subverted or be hostile. But the expectation, especially from the organisation, is that they are going to be tools for relationship building. They're very easily quantifiable, so analytics are built into most platforms, and they facilitate a real-time two-way dialogue, or multi-way dialogue. So that is something that's quite new and quite extraordinary. And most specifically for the mainstream media, that social media allows a bypassing of mainstream media channels. So when we talk about the changing landscape of mainstream media, it's partly due to the old economic models of which mainstream media was based on, but it's also a big part of it is the functionality and the adaptability of of social media is something that is situated as an alternative. So those two elements have combined to really problematize the place of mainstream media. So if we can think about what is really the great assets of social media, we can think about authenticity, credibility, and communications. So in all sectors where communication is essential, social media, when employed effectively, can facilitate a sense of authenticity and credibility with the publics it serves. So it can be done through new models of conventional communication. So as I mentioned before, something like Netflix, television, film, etc., is very conventional forms of communication, but they can be carried and presented in new ways through social media. But also, social media allows for a whole novel form of communication, and that very individualized and targeted forms of communication. So there are sort of twin ways that it is effective as a public relations communications tool. Political communications and social media. Success in the modern political environment is highly determined by developing individual relationships between those in power and those who vote for them, if we're talking about democratic systems. And those of you who study politics I'm sure you will agree that in the last 50 or 60 years, personality has become increasingly important in the political system, more so often than political party affiliations or policies. So a politician's rise or fall is very much based on the way that their persona is presented through the media. And in the last decade, they've had to be real experts at social media, because social media, of course, promotes a sense of authenticity. It promotes a sense of conversation, of very targeted and very intimate forms of communication, which of course is situated within that realm of individualization of the politician. And they are very much, politicians are very much judged on their performance on social media. I just have an example here of Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand, who has garnered a great deal of plaudits for her social media performance during the COVID-19 pandemic. She is a very natural communicator, and her persona has been very much as a friend as much as she is a leader, and she promotes this a lot in her social media presence, and especially at this time where direct instruction has become very important for leaders to give to the public. She has excelled in that. So I'll just show you a little clip from her.
That I would jump online quickly and just check in with everyone, really, as we all prepare to hunker down for a few weeks. Excuse the casual attire. Can be a messy business putting toddlers to bed, so I'm not in my work clothes, so forgive me for that. I do just want to prepare everyone that because of the lag with COVID-19, the time from someone having contact with someone who has it, catching it themselves, them being symptomatic and being tested and positive, there's a number of days before all of that happens. So we won't see the positive benefits of all of the effort you're about to put in for self-isolation for a few days yet, quite a number of days. I'd say at least 10 days. So don't be disheartened. Our numbers are going to go up. And the modelling I've seen suggests that they will go up quite considerably. We'll see quite a steep rise. In fact, I'm expecting we may see several thousand cases over a period of time until we then will start to, we hope, see the effects of what we're doing with self-isolation having a positive impact. So don't be disheartened when you see that. Don't be disheartened when you see that ongoing increase because of that lag. All of the efforts that we're putting in should eventually show if we all follow the rules. Till then, do check in on your neighbours. Do especially check on those who may be elderly. Give them a call, see what their needs are. And if you can help them, go out and grab their essentials and pop them on the front door for them. Just remembering the way we can keep them safe is by keeping our distance.
So you can see that Jacinta is has this very effortless and very personal style that is really well suited to social media, and she does these kind of posts a lot. So it is a very, I guess, a conventional form of communication in the sense she is trying to advise and and inform the public. So there's a form of political communication, but she's doing it in very much a social media orientated way. So the commercial sector, again, like the political sector, uses social media a great deal now, and it would be very unusual for any kind of commercial entity to not have a social media presence. Companies use social media to develop the brand and create. They create via conventional media, and then develop intimate personal relationships with customers. So the brand itself is, often will exist in, I guess, firstly in the real world, but then in the mainstream media space, to get people kind of engage with it in that way, but then can be totally redefined and nuanced within the social media space. Social media, as we've mentioned before, can allow direct communication and direct and personal communication to customers, in addressing complaints, addressing questions, and all that sort of thing. And many of you will have engaged with an organisation through their social media where maybe you've had a complaint or you have a question about what is going on. And if an organisation is knows its public relations, it will respond quickly and effectively. Often this goes awry. I haven't actually put up too many examples of this, but there are lots of examples where this can kind of go off the rails. So although it's an expected feature of commercial public relations, it's also very volatile and can be difficult to control, especially in particular circumstances, because not only are you not controlling how the narrative goes once it goes out there, but the narrative spreads really, really wide, and it is a very much, to talk in the language of a pandemic, it is very viral. As soon as 5 people get a message, they can spread it to 50 people pretty quickly. Can spread it to 500 people, to 500,000 people very, very quickly. And the original message, or the organization or the company's original message, can be very easily lost very, very quickly. So it's a really, really valuable tool for commercial interests, or those sort of things apply for all sectors that use social media. So it's very valuable in finding its audience, but it also is very, very volatile. So commercial PR and digital storytelling. Digital media, especially social media, provides a much broader scope for organizations to develop their brand narratives. So, what is the story behind the brand? Conventionally, you may have had a 30-second commercial on television, or a newspaper ad, or something like that, which is not a lot of space to develop a really strong narrative. But of course, in social media, especially for large organizations with big budgets, you can develop a very strong, very nuanced and elaborate backstory to your product. And all commercial marketeers and people involved in the commercial world want their products to not be just consumed by their target audience, but to actually be loved by their audience, for their audience to really see themselves as being part of, see their personalities very much aligned with what the product is. And that can be facilitated quite effectively within the nuances of social media. I just have an example here of a Toyota campaign from a few years ago. I did show this last year to my brand comms class, but I do really like it, and I particularly like this campaign because it uses it subverts the genre to a point where it doesn't use a new product. It uses an old product, so therefore it can really draw on that notion of authenticity. It can really draw on that notion that this product is something that is part of the cultural and economic landscape of a place, and ties that very much into the story that it's telling and the personalities that it is that sit alongside it. So I'm just going to show you this quick clip, and then we can discuss.
I'm Bob Bacon, I'm 83. I bought this truck 30 years ago, Toyota Hilux, and when this model was made, there was only two in this area. This was one. There wasn't many about. You used to go along the road and the little lads used to shout, Fall Guy, because they'd seen something like it on the television. I liked them. Good strong chassis, four-wheel drive. You're rather high up, you can see around and you feel safe. Neat little truck, it carts what I wanted, the cart, and it does the job. Well, I like it for it's four-wheel drive and you can go in the fields and not get stuck. I remember one bad snowdrift from steep hill, come towards it, put it in the gear appropriate for the occasion, up it went. No bother. Doesn't often get stuck. It drives well, but these modern ones have power steering. Something more to go wrong, I think. To date, it's done 257,000 miles. So many times around the world. But it's still going. Plenty of people's offered to buy it. I don't want to sell it. When the thing's going good, why change it?
So you can see that it's, the big long backstory that is about Toyota as a company, with this person, this kind of craggy old man that suits his craggy old truck, but it is about the brand, it is about the company as much as it is about the product. So those sort of, I guess, that long form story, and of course this commercial is just one of many within a significant social media campaign that Toyota ran, each with their own different story. So it gives a much broader scope to tell that story, than it would in a conventional television campaign, where the message that we have a new product out and we want you to buy it and this is the price. That those are the narratives of commercial television, but this is a far more nuanced one. Not-for-profit organisations, they are also very significant groups that use social media. And the interactivity and storytelling provision of social media allows groups to communicate their activities and personalise their fundraising efforts. So, for those organisations, and we have talked about this in previous lectures, that must constantly fundraise all the time, that they can easily keep up a social media presence, and from that, not only can they raise awareness through just, I guess, the conventional one-to-many model that social media allows, but also through the analytics can actually target people who perhaps have donated before, or or even through the analytics can can see who's interested, who might be doing searches around there, and target them again. Again, this is a really rich area for social media use. So we move on to talk about social media influencers. The digital influencers, it describes a new style of entrepreneur and mentor who reach their audience via social media, as its name suggests. Sometimes they might cultivate a maverick persona, situating themselves outside of the mainstream. And this is designed to catch the spirit of social media. I mean, social media still has, because of its unpredictability, because of its viralness and its organicness, and the fact that everybody can. It's a very democratic and postmodern form of technology where essentially no one is favoured over anyone else. A person, a young person in their bedroom, or anyone can do something on social media, and if it is popular, and if it gets people's attention, then they will become important and significant within that realm as much as anyone else in the world. Previous wealth and all that sort of thing is theoretically meaningless compared to because the technology just allows everybody to participate within that. Sometimes with social media influencers, the marketing is obvious, but sometimes it's very much because it's based on a persona and a brand. The actual object that is being promoted, the public relations advocacy that is being undertaken, is hidden and is diffuse and is maybe disguised. And that shows a significant amount of skill on the part of the people involved to actually do that, and to have people engage with something that might not be a product, and it might not be an organization, it might not be something like that, but it can just be an idea. It can just be a theme or a value that is being promoted, and then maybe gradually a more specific or more targeted organization might be brought in, or a product or something can be brought in, to do this. But it can be quite a light touch. It's interesting to think of social media influencers in a light touch, but I think there is an element of subtlety there that is being undertaken. Authenticity is a really significant thing. So the idea of telling real stories, this is really what I am doing. And we know now as the influencer trend is a number of years old, and there's a lot of critique of it. We actually know, if you've done any research into this, that most of it is highly manufactured, and people's lives are never or as they seem on their social media existence, because these perfect people living these perfect adventurous lives do not really exist. But it's still a narrative that is so attractive that we buy into, and in doing so, that is what the kind of spins the social media wheels. But we as the kind of observers, or the interlocutors, the people that are interacting with this, many of us still buy into that narrative, despite the kind of these new cracks forming in the way that in the knowledge that what is really going on. So it's a very personalized form of storytelling, and that idea of the persona becomes really significant. So we can think about this in this idea of this hyper personal. That we have individuals who stand in for particular tropes, who are there to represent something, but also there to absorb, I guess, the partly the attractions of the audience, but also their anxieties, all those different things. It's quite a complex psychological phenomenon, the rise of the social media influencer, and one that has a lot of significant power that I think still hasn't really been engaged with and tapped with in academic circles that much. So individuals can be directly engaged, and they can also be afforded personal networking agency. And for organizations, the key issue is to capture and retain a target audience. So you do that through the individual. So the individual has a great deal of power. They're like a spokesperson or a spokesmodel, or whatever you want to say. But it's like the power of the spokesmodel has become far greater. Look, I haven't got a link here to Casey Neistat's page, but he's pretty easy to find. You just Google him, you'll see a link there somewhere. But he's pretty easy to find. I don't look at his stuff very often, and I don't even know what he's been up to lately. But I think he really kind of represents that kind of maverick social media influencer, the one who is pretending to not be an influencer, or pretending that he is somehow someone external to the commercial world. He really, to me, personifies the maverick spirit of the internet. That's not to say that I kind of like him. I find him, a little bit nauseating most of the time, but I think he really does represent that maverick spirit. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of, I guess, one of his earlier clips.
To the haters, the doubters, my 7th grade vice principal, to everyone who's ever told anyone with a dream they can't, this video's for you. Keep your head down, follow the rules, do as you're told, play it safe, wait your turn, ask permission, learn to compromise. This is terrible advice. If I were to write an autobiography, a book about my life, one title that would work would be Do What You Can't, because that idea encapsulates everything I've ever done. Like when I wanted to move to New York City and my dad was like, you can't, you don't have any money. Or when I first said I wanted to make movies and it was, you can't, you didn't go to film school. I want to have a TV show, you can't, Casey, you're not pretty enough. And to go even further, like if I were to characterize what this new generation of content creators and filmmakers, what we all do on YouTube and everywhere else is we do what we can't.
Et 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
You can't be an action movie filmmaker. But you get your parkour friends to dress up like video game characters, jump off some buildings, and you can. Right, Devin?
Yes.
You can't have a talk show, but you have a webcam and you can.
What's up, you beautiful bastards? What?
This is my first YouTube video ever.
Next thing you know, you're interviewing the president.
I heard that you're going to be out of a job soon.
Well, maybe I'll start a YouTube show.
That's what I'm thinking.
You can't fly around New York City on a magic carpet, but get your electric skateboard, some PVC pipe, a great outfit, give Jesse a call, and you can.
What do you think?
This is so dope.
You don't need gear, you don't need trucks or a crane, you don't need some big expensive camera rig that never works. When you're a creator,
I just had to stop it there because Casey was getting to me too much. You know, I think perhaps it's my age or perhaps it's my cynicism, but I'm very, very cynical about influences at this point now. And I kind of think, you know, that you know, we know that he is always selling something, even if he doesn't seem to be. And there is a kind of an element of perfection with, or the kind of the sense of perfection within the maverick life. You know, he talks about, you know, his kind of, you know, how he's always been marginalised, but yet he is very much not marginalised at the same time. So, I have lots of problems with Casey, but I still think that he is a good example of what influencers are. Here's a longer quote which I won't read out, but you know, a big part of it, and I've just kind of undermined this by saying that I don't particularly trust, you know, a lot of influencers, but that is what they are there to do. They are there to build trust in their target audience, and this is where those ideas of authenticity and credibility come into play and become very, very important. It's really important that a consumer, a follower, whatever you want to call it, you know, they really believe what these people are doing, and you know, maybe they will consume the products that they're selling or not, but you know, eventually it's kind of a numbers game. Eventually they will come around to it. And as you know, fitness bloggers as well, or even people like Casey Neistat are doing, they are selling a lifestyle as much as they are selling a product. They are selling a concept of life, a worldview, and all these type of things. So organizations, this is not just a maverick thing, but because organizations recognize the power of influencers and will often pay them significant amounts of money to on junkets or whatever to mention and promote their business. You know, I haven't had time in this lecture, but I have just sort of thought about all those great times where it does backfire, and there are some great cases where people who thought their influence was greater than it was, but maybe go to a restaurant or turn up to a hotel or something like that and say, don't you know who I am? I'm an influencer, and you know, I demand a free room or a free meal, and the hotel says no. And I must admit there's it's probably the curmudgeonly old man in me, but there is a moment that I kind of find that very satisfying when, you know, for every massive Instagram star, there's probably about 10,000 people who have a few followers who think they're massive Instagram stars. So we'll just sort of end with the idea of viral marketing and storytelling. Viral marketing functions through what we can think of as a digital word of mouth. Okay, that notion that whatever is being promoted is setting a trend, rather than following one. So, you know, again, it ties into this sort of maverick spirit. I think that's what we want to have as the theme today of, you know, what is digital storytelling. It is storytelling, but with a sense of organicness, a sense that you are going into a marginalized or liminal or, you know, a space that has not been populated by the mainstream or not been populated by, you know, more conventional forms of narrative. So, you know, viral marketing is the sense that it's not actually marketing, it's just a whole lot of people throughout the world through social media channels are actually engaging in some product or idea. And often it's ironic or intertextual, which means it's drawing on other texts or past motifs or you know um, old television shows or old music or something to tell a new story. So it's actually making it's trying to appeal to a knowledgeable audience, and it's trying to make sure that it's on the same intellectual level as the audience. It's a very sort of complex, again, a very psychologically complex form of storytelling. We have a quote here. Viral marketing is a strategy dealing with creating original and entertaining online messages that encourage consumers to get the message across to other consumers, spreading the message on the web like a virus. Okay, so it's about the I guess the snowballing of the narrative, and when it works well, it's a really efficient form of public relations because people are doing their own work for you. People are engaging in this to such a level that they want to disseminate it and want to spread it around. So the clip I have here is from the Mona ad. Mona, the Museum of Old and New Art here in Hobart, did this ad a couple of years ago, where they did a kind of a maverick commercial for the Flippers fishing punt down on the waterfront. And I must admit I hadn't seen this for a while, and I don't think I saw it when it first came out, but it's a really effective commercial, and very sort of David Lynchian in its own way, or this is very dark take on the genre, and this went quite viral. So we'll just play this and we can discuss at the end.
Are you tired of cooking fish? Well, you'll never get tired of eating it.
Flippers.
At Flippers.
Flippers.
It's a fish-shaped boat in the heart of Hobart Harbour that cooks fish especially for you.
Crumbed flathead, my favourite fish.
That's right, Katie, and it tastes flippin' great. No need to squabble, fellas. There's plenty of flippers to go round. In Tasmania, fish have fins, and people have flippers. And knives. And nothing goes better with fresh fish than fresh mayo. Nice. Now, our secret is that if it swims, we'll fry it. That's right. Fry it, like Mama used to fry when Mama worked at Flippers. On the fryer, she did. Flippers cooked seafood.
Yum, yum.
Is seafood. No surprise there. If you want to get your fingers on some flippers, come on, don't be shy. Call 62343101. It's 62343101.
173, please.
Flippers. Like slippers, but
with a flip.
That's right. Now, don't skip, because if you can watch for another 30 seconds, you'll see and hear more about flippers. Flippers is great for lunch with loved ones, dinner with darlings, or you can combine lunch with dinner and you get flippers for lunch now. Or dunch. Yeah. Flippers is also perfect for that thing. And, the internet. Flippers. Come along and be our friends. You'll come for the fish and stay for the friendship. Please.
So that's the great Mona Flippers ad, and obviously it took off and had a significant viral life after the commercial, and it's surrealness. It's very postmodern take on things like elevator music, on the voiceover, on the imagery of close-ups of food, which seems to be very popular in the Tasmanian mainstream commercial world, of these almost grotesque close-ups of food, has been kind of taken to a more ironic extreme in this commercial. But the issue is that this went viral and and had people kind of engaging with it at lots and lots of different levels. And this is not a direct claim to a product, whether that be Flippers or Mona or whatever. This is basically just hailing an audience of intellectually like-minded people. I say that in the broadest possible scope, but that is what I guess the sense of digital storytelling and digital public relations is. It's not a direct form of commercialism or direct hailing of something like vote for me or whatever. This is more a case of just promoting a value, a concept, an attractive idea. And there are some final references for you to have a look at. I hope you found this lecture useful. There'll be other information here on Milo as well. Thank you very much.